The boy suddenly wakes up and realizes that he is now at level 2. He looks around at the new environment, confused by the sudden change in scenery. The boy observes the unknown place around him, surrounded by stones and mysterious lights, trying to understand where he is. It is then revealed that he is being watched live by several people, and that this is his first challenge inside a dungeon. While another adventurer faces a giant snake inside the dungeon, a live broadcast shows the confrontation. It is explained that all adventurers are required to stream during their explorations. This serves to prevent crimes and accidents, functioning as a form of security and record-keeping. Even without fully understanding everything, the protagonist accepts this reality. The boy prepares excitedly for his first stream as a DanTuber, a dungeon exploration streamer. He holds his device enthusiastically, eager to begin. Upon checking the data, he realizes that there are already a few people watching his live stream. During the live stream, the boy introduces himself excitedly as a newbie in the world of DanTubers. He mentions that he has just finished training and is now going to explore a dungeon. Slowly, comments begin to appear, and he gets excited, feeling like he is truly being watched as a real streamer. As he walks through the room, the boy reflects on the ties system, which measures the connection between streamer and viewers. He realized that the first broadcast usually attracts many ties, which helps determine who will be supported in the future. The pressure of this selection makes him a bit nervous. The protagonist admits that he doesn't have much experience with streaming, but he continues excitedly toward the reception. He comments that he would like to be able to choose whether to stream or not. However, when entering a dungeon, the broadcast begins automatically. Viewers start commenting live, and he feels embarrassed by the reactions, asking for a little privacy. The boy promises to do his best to meet the viewers' expectations. He reaches the first floor of the Tokyo dungeon, but acknowledges that this is a dangerous environment where death is common. Soon after, he encounters a violent scene and worries about the age rating of the broadcast, questioning if all the blood would restrict the younger audience. As he walks through a corridor in the dungeon, the boy states that his motto is to work consistently and carefully. Even knowing that the first floor is relatively safer, he decides to stay on high alert. In the comments, viewers talk about the traumas of other streamers and violent scenes. He acknowledges that thinking about this is scary, but reassures everyone that he is well prepared. The boy finally reaches the first floor of the Tokyo dungeon. He observes the environment attentively and comments that it was on this floor that he saw his parents. Despite personal memories tied to the place, he moves forward and greets the others with a confident smile. Although a bit nervous, the boy feels that the unusual atmosphere of the dungeon is exciting. He tries to stay calm, noticing that the first floor seems peaceful. Soon after, a group points out a fork in the path, indicating that the exploration is about to split in different directions. During a flashback from his lessons, the boy reviews the instructions on how to use the smartphone provided in the beginner's course. The device shows skills, location, and broadcast status. A map of the first floor reveals that all paths connect and lead to the next level. With no dead ends, he understands that by staying calm, it's possible to progress without getting lost. Excited, the boy announces that his goal for the day is to defeat 3 slimes. Even showing a bit of nervousness, he tries to keep the mood positive. Before choosing one of the available routes, he jokes that he doesn't want to turn his first day into a death milestone. He picks the third route and sets off under the watchful eyes of others. The boy follows a route with no one else around and feels intrigued by the silence, but tries to remain calm. As he walks, he recalls lessons from the mandatory adventurer course. Although he passed, he admits that he slept through the explanation and now doesn't fully understand what it was about. The boy spots his first enemy, a slime. He is surprised by the cute appearance of the creature, which slowly moves toward him. The broadcast notifies the start of the battle, while comments react with excitement and cheer for him in this first real confrontation. Without hesitation, the boy grabs the slime and crushes it with a direct and powerful strike to the ground. The impact is strong, scattering the creature's fluids everywhere. With a confident smile, he finishes his first battle successfully. After defeating the slime, the boy is surprised by the number of comments in the live stream. Some praise his performance, while others accuse him of cruelty toward the creature. Confused, he wonders if slimes are really that beloved. Despite the criticism, he states that he doesn't feel sorry for monsters, knowing they live in a world where survival is the priority. While reflecting on slimes, the boy mentions another monster, the snow rabbits. Unlike the slimes, he considers them dangerous and has no compassion for them. According to him, they are treacherous and could even break someone's neck if they aren't careful. When asked about other adventurers, he reveals that he rarely watches other streams, so he doesn't know much about the experiences of others. While a viewer watches the live stream with interest, the boy continues his exploration, surprised by the silence since his fight with the slime. He expected to encounter many monsters along the way, but the dungeon is strangely calm. Still, he tries to keep up the spirit and moves forward, ready for whatever comes. As he continues walking through the dungeon, the boy feels his fatigue building up and begins to reflect on the difficulty of an adventurer's life. He's amazed by the number of levels ahead of him and wonders if there is any way to skip parts of the path. Soon, a comment in the live stream reveals there is indeed a way to advance directly, a shortcut between floors. The boy is surprised to see the notification about the level shortcut. Confused and excited at the same time, he reacts dramatically, lifting the tablet in the air. He tries to understand what that means and who Yukikaze is, the person who sent the mysterious message. The boy becomes even more excited when he realizes that Yukikaze, a rank B adventurer, is watching and commenting on his stream. Although he doesn't know him personally, he recognizes the importance of the fixed rank seal and feels honored by the attention. Yukikaze has few subscribers, but her recognition as rank B already makes her someone respected. The boy gets even more excited as he remembers why he admires Yukikaze. She uses 2 blades, wears a fox mask, and has a strong presence that inspires him. Above all, he respects her for being incredibly strong. With sparkling eyes, he says that Yukikaze is the only DanTuber he follows and asks everyone to check out her channel. It is the moment when he shows the most enthusiasm so far. The boy shouts excitedly, saying that he will praise those he admires without shame. He respects Yukikaze a lot and wants everyone to know it. The live stream comments joke about the situation, saying that he is promoting another channel in the middle of his own broadcast. Yukikaze responds with good humor, and the boy is happy to show this more lively side of himself. The boy asks for more details about the level shortcut, curious about the tip he received. Yukikaze responds in the comments, saying that if he goes a bit further, he will find a bright white magical circle. The protagonist pretends not to understand on purpose, and the viewers notice, laughing at his reaction. Even so, he admits that there's something strange about the audience's reactions when it comes to this kind of shortcut. The boy finally finds the glowing magical circle mentioned by Yukikaze. He observes the symbol on the ground with curiosity, confirming that it is indeed a magical circle, more or less. Despite the comments warning him not to approach, he trusts the information given by Yukikaze, even though he finds it strange how everyone is reacting. Fully trusting Yukikaze, the boy decides to step into the magical circle, thinking there is no danger. With an easygoing smile, he steps into the center of the mark. Suddenly, Yukikaze reacts urgently in the chat, telling him to stop immediately. But it's already too late. As he steps into the circle, the boy is suddenly sucked in, not understanding what's happening. The viewers react in shock, questioning if he even read the course manual. The narration confirms he really entered the shortcut. And now, there's no turning back. Back in the present, the boy observes the new area he landed in after using the shortcut. He is in a rocky, unknown environment, isolated and surrounded by cliffs. The atmosphere is tense. Now he truly understands the weight of the choice he made. The boy panics as he faces a completely unknown and hostile scenario. He wonders what kind of place this is, as he has never heard of a floor like this. A comment in the live stream reveals that he has ended up in unexplored territory, sarcastically praising him for discovering the new area. Desperate, the boy questions what it means to be in an unexplored area and why he ended up here. As he tries to understand the situation, Yukikaze apologizes in the chat, saying that she didn't imagine he would actually step into the circle. The revelation only deepens the protagonist's shock, as he now realizes he is completely off plan. The boy admits that he slept through the beginner training, which explains why he didn't know the danger of the magical circle. In the comments, viewers mock the situation and call him reckless. When checking his location, he finds out he is on the 46th floor, an achievement that surpasses the record of all newcomers. Surprised, he decides to show everyone where he ended up, with a nervous smile on his face. Upon checking the device, the boy discovers that he is on the 500th floor of the dungeon, a completely unrecorded location. The comments explode in shock as this is 10 times deeper than the previous record. With no chance of error, he understands the gravity of the situation. The phone doesn't lie. And then it hits him. He might be completely screwed. The boy looks around at the environment and immediately realizes this place is not compatible with a rookie using starting equipment. The realization hits hard. He is about to die. In the midst of panic, one question echoes in his mind. What does it feel like to be brought to ruin? But something inside him still hasn't extinguished. The boy panics at the possibility of dying in the middle of the stream. He thinks of everything he hasn't lived yet, the impact this would have on Yukikaze, and even the slime he faced earlier. Determined, he decides that he won't die here. Not pathetically, not alone, and certainly not live. Even filled with fear, the boy firmly declares that he won't die. He acknowledges his mistakes, admits that he ignored the warnings, and didn't take the course seriously. But now he wants to fight for his life. He asks that the stream not be turned off. He is still alive, and he will prove that he can survive, no matter what it takes. With his body bowed in reverence, the boy apologizes in front of the cameras and begs for the viewers' help. Even embarrassed, he admits that he needs support to survive in this place. While some watch in silence and others comment sarcastically, he insists he doesn't want to die alone here. The audience responses start to come in. Yukikaze, though reluctant, offers to help. The boy thanks her with a sincere smile, acknowledging that the blame is entirely his. In the comments, some defend Yukikaze, others enjoy the situation. Still, he feels relieved to realize that he is not entirely alone on this journey. Responding to the chat's questions, the boy begins to describe the environment around him. He observes that there is a lot of lava, the temperature is high, and the terrain seems steep. Amidst the analysis, he notices the presence of monsters in the distance. The tension rises again. Danger is near once more. The boy spots a massive wolf ahead and tries to remain calm, wondering if it's just a regular wolf. The comments explain that despite the lava, the dungeon's temperature is regulated to maintain livable conditions. Still, they remind him that the goal for beginners is to avoid monsters, not face them. Now, in front of a real threat, he hesitates, unsure of what to do next. The boy reveals his abilities. Appraise, which allows him to identify monsters and levels, and Item Box, a magical pouch with fixed weight. Although useful, both are support skills, with no direct application in combat. Faced with the imminent danger, he acknowledges that he has no way to fight monsters with what he has now. He recalls that when the dungeons appeared 2 years ago, all you needed was one skill to enter. He thought it would be fun, but now he finds himself in a life-or-death situation. Yukikaze tries to encourage him, saying that he can still acquire new skills over time. But the tension grows with a question from the chat. What about the floor boss? And he realizes that he hasn't even thought about that until now. He comes face to face with the floor boss, a large and strange enemy. He is confused when he learns that he needs to defeat this type of monster to advance, but relieved to find out that it's not necessary to defeat it if it has already been beaten by another adventurer. Someone in the chat suggests he just find a safe area to rest, as facing it now is out of the question. The boy learns from Aragami that from the 50th floor onward, each large country has an inactive area per floor called a rest area. Aragami advises him to find one of these caves to take shelter, offering help. Surprised, he realizes he is speaking to someone famous, the second-place explorer in the rankings, known as a big American star. The boy is confused when he realizes that a living legend capable of clearing the 50th floor alone is watching his stream. He wonders if he was rude or unworthy of attention. He then checks his device and is shocked to see that over 150,000 people are watching his stream. At this moment, urgent news begins to be broadcast to the world. The media begins reporting on the case of Sakai Kotoba, a high school student from Tokyo, who disappeared after being accidentally transported to the 500th floor of a dungeon during an exploration. The situation catches national and international attention as he continues to stream live, confirming that he is alive. The feat of reaching such a deep floor surpasses all known records. Sakai is in shock as he discovers he is on the news. He imagines his parents watching and shouts to the camera, saying he's okay. The impact of the broadcast increases even further, with his stream gaining enormous visibility, attracting more and more viewers. The number of viewers explodes, surpassing 400,000. Even embarrassed, Sakai bows and asks for help, introducing himself as a novice. He tries to look at the bright side, thinking that now he has more allies. With determination, he decides to move forward and find the cave that Aragami mentioned. Sekai decides to move quietly, so as not to be seen by the monsters. He tries to move discreetly but ends up attracting the attention of a wolf, which immediately turns its gaze toward him. Sekai reaches the top of a hill and celebrates, thinking the place is calm and spacious. He even wonders if he's in a bonus stage, believing he will be able to advance easily. But Aragami warns him not to jinx it, and at that moment, something appears above him. A huge monstrous wolf appears above Sekai, who freezes in fear when facing the creature. Nervously, he attempts a timid greeting, but soon realizes that he is in danger. Yukikaze screams in the chat, "Run!" Sekai begins running for his life, fleeing from the enormous black wolf that leaps to chase him. Even scared, he keeps a nervous smile on his face and speaks out loud, as if trusting that something or someone will help him escape. Sekai runs desperately as the giant wolf chases him closely. He begins to panic, thinking it's the end. With each step, the monster gets closer, opening its mouth as if to devour him. Still, Sekai keeps running with all his might, narrowly trying to escape. Sekai shouts for help, saying he can't handle the situation. He asks for help from the viewers of the live stream, while a super chat ironically appears for funeral expenses. He narrowly avoids a destructive attack that explodes the ground behind him and, even in the midst of despair, comments that he can profit from the stream clips later. While running to save his life, Sekai complains that if viewers are going to send super chats, at least they should send something useful. Yukikaze suggests using the money to buy potions, and Aragami explains that each one costs 100,000, but could even regenerate lost limbs. Soon, a shower of donations appears on the screen, totaling 10 million. Sekai is shocked by the amount and the real chance of survival. Sekai celebrates the miracle of the donations and quickly accesses the store to buy potions. They appear in the air, and he activates his item box ability to catch them mid-jump, ready to use them during his escape. Sekai tries to grab the potions in the air while running from the giant wolf. He jumps high, but fumbles as he tries to coordinate everything at once. Despite that, he manages to land a blow on the enemy, still thinking about how he's going to get out of there without getting hurt. Sekai is hit and feels an intense pain in his arm, but soon notices something surprising. The arm is regenerating rapidly. Still shocked, he tries to understand what's happening while continuing to flee. Sekai keeps running as his arm regenerates. Even in panic, he reads the comments in the live stream that joke about the situation. One of the viewers praises his skills, but Sekai, desperate, screams for real help. He wants a solution, not laughs. Sekai complains about the uselessness of the viewers, but then Yukikaze comments that he just passed a cave. Aragami also confirms that it looks like a rest area. Surprised, Sekai turns around and finally notices the place, not understanding how he didn't see it before. While fleeing from the monster, Sekai yells at the viewers, saying that this is what it really means to be a viewer, helping with useful information and comments. He drinks the potion and keeps running, excited by the interaction, saying that this is the true spirit of live streaming in a dungeon. As he continues running, Sekai slips and falls. At this moment, an idea comes to him as he remembers a tip from the comments. Large creatures can be defeated from underneath or behind. He faces the enemy, realizing a possible weak spot. The monster launches a powerful energy attack directly at Sekai, hitting him squarely for the 4th time. Even so, he is still standing, unbelievably resisting the brutal impact. Sekai is thrown, rolls on the ground, but quickly gets up with a confident smile. He runs full force toward the cave entrance as the giant wolf chases him closely. Even in danger, he seems determined and doesn't lose focus. Sekai crawls into the cave and celebrates for managing to escape alive. While viewers around the world watch in shock, he tries to understand what just happened. Still panting, he holds his device and asks if he will be safe inside. Sekai realizes that the wolf doesn't chase him into the cave, confirming that the place is indeed safe. Meanwhile, super chat messages pour in, congratulating him for surviving. Relieved and still scared, he tries to calm himself while observing the monster standing outside. Sekai, still full of adrenaline, begins to curse the wolf, calling it a fire-spitting idiot and mocking the fact that it ran away. Outside, the viewers comment that he's getting cocky, The wolf, on the other hand, reacts with an intense look, saying it's starting to like him, while others worry about his taunts. The wolf attacks again with a jet of fire, furious after being provoked. Sekai runs desperately, but deep down he seems to be enjoying the situation. He says he's angry now too, and they're even. Even in the face of danger, he stares at the wolf with a nervous smile, acknowledging that the creature is genuinely annoyed. Sekai watches as the wolf lies down and calms down, as if they're wrapping up the day. With a smile, he casually comments that his first stream as a DanTuber ended like this, chaotic and unbelievable. Despite everything, he takes it all in stride, even though he started his journey on the 500th floor of the dungeon. Something unprecedented. Chapter 2 begins by highlighting the current location, the dangerous 500th floor of the dungeon. Sekai wakes up and realizes that the giant wolf has been staring at him for 8 straight hours. Surprised, he checks his phone and confirms the sleep time. Meanwhile, the entire world continues watching the live broadcast, in shock at the absurd situation. Sekai realizes that the whole world watched him sleep for 8 hours. Incredulous, he questions the viewers, while on the other side of the screen, even a national broadcaster is airing his live stream. He doesn't understand why his broadcast is being treated as a major national event. Sekai is outraged that they're broadcasting live moments when he almost died, questioning the ethics of it. Meanwhile, the public at home watches calmly, explaining that the system automatically displays a classification warning if there are serious injuries. He is surprised to learn that they now use magical stones and smartphones for this, and that even energy issues have been resolved since his last time in Japan. Sekai stares at the wolf, telling it to stop acting like it's the dungeon master. Still, he comments that many people have died here. The wolf growls threateningly, but Sekai doesn't flinch and sarcastically asks if it's fallen in love with him from following him so much. A comment in the livestream suggests that the wolf has become a stalker, and Sekai jokes that it's a good idea. Sekai uses his appraisal ability and discovers that the wolf in front of him is a unique boss with a name called Sukoru, a level 1240 werewolf. He faces the revelation with a nervous smile, while the comments highlight the absurd level difference between them, over 1,000. He reacts in surprise. A unique boss with a name? Sekai, still shocked by the situation, tries to keep the tone light on the stream, saying he's a novice, just teleported from the first level. He comments that the monsters on the 500th floor are on average level 68, and that it's the first time he's seen a unique boss combination. He then admits the reality. Everything here is too strong, and with a desperate smile, he declares, "It's over." Sekai tries to stay calm while thinking about what to do next. He says that since he managed to get to the rest area, there must be a way to survive. Even joking about quitting, he quickly reconsiders, realizing that would mean death. Running again from the wolf, he blames the viewers for being insensitive, but keeps trying to find a way out. Even though he's in a safe area, Sekai wonders if a rescue will really come. He can buy food and water, which will allow him to survive, but he doesn't know how long that will last. Thinking about it, he realizes that waiting for help is unrealistic. He's on the 500th floor, where there are 100,000 deaths per year. The chance of someone reaching him to rescue him is almost zero. Sekai understands that to advance floors, he'll have to defeat the wolves. But even with potions, the chance is to be crushed. So he decides he needs to get stronger, but he doesn't know how. The suggestion is to look for a treasure chest. He finds one and hopes there's some powerful item inside to help him. Sekai thinks that the treasure chest idea is too good to be true. But a message confirms that since the wolf is a boss, the chest must contain an item. He understands that there's a chance to turn the situation around, even if it's a small one. Sekai doesn't like relying on luck, but admits he doesn't have many options. He thinks about looking for a treasure chest, even though he doesn't know if he'll find one. But leaving now would be dangerous because of the wolves. Sekai decides to explore the cave, finding it strange how deep it is, even though it's a rest area. He notices a light in the distance and begins to think that there might be an important clue there. Sekai keeps exploring and finds an even deeper part of the cave with magma at the bottom. Despite this, he considers the place better than the monster house, but still hesitates, knowing it's not entirely safe. Sekai finds a luxurious treasure chest at the bottom of the cave and celebrates excitedly. He gets excited and curious, wondering if something good will really come from it, but decides to open it anyway. Before opening the chest, Sekai remembers that his appraisal skill doesn't work on inanimate objects. He recalls a conversation where it was said that chests can actually be monsters in disguise, the famous mimics. To avoid this kind of trap, he would need trap detection skills, or clairvoyance. He concludes that he's only heard about this, all based on rumors. Sekai considers the possibility that the chest might be a trap, but ends up giving in. Aragami explains that, given the situation, monsters might be smart and that the entire floor is probably the wolf's territory. Even if the chest is a mimic, other monsters probably couldn't invade this territory. Sekai, still confused, decides to trust and prepares to open the chest. Sekai opens the chest while several cameras record the moment, as if it were a big event being broadcast live. He gets excited, confident, not realizing that he's trapped inside a sort of glass cell that appeared around him. Sekai screams as something from the chest violently attacks him. The audience starts commenting, finding it funny that he always loses his arm in these situations. Aragami confirms that they were outside the wolf's territory, as if that explained the trap. Sekai responds angrily, realizing that no one really cares about what he's going through. Sekai survives by a narrow margin thanks to the potion, which costs 100,000. Aragami comments that if the activation move hadn't been through contact, he would have died. Still, Sekai remains upbeat and thanks those who helped with information and super chats, poking fun at those who laughed without helping. Sekai comments that he has almost accumulated 100 million, but he doesn't know how many potions he'll need. Aragami suggests he check the store, as new products have likely been added after receiving so much money. Sekai gets excited by the idea. Sekai realizes that the store now offers more items, including clothes, spices, and a cauldron. He finds the suggestion of cooking inside the dungeon strange and comments that he wouldn't want to do that in this situation. It's explained that the items in the store change according to the person, and specific wishes can influence what appears. Sekai decides to use that place as a base until he defeats the wolves, since it offers a good quality of life. When thinking about cooking, he worries about the fire and the presence of magma, but concludes that if it's an adapted version of the dungeon, he might be able to handle it. Sekai gets excited about the idea of cooking with magma and enthusiastically declares that he will try it. The viewers react confused and surprised by the sudden change, while Aragami gives him permission to go ahead with the plan. Sekai reflects on his decision to cook with magma. He admits that he's not doing it because he likes it or isn't afraid, but because he feels he should repay the support from the viewers. He wants to keep the content interesting, as if nothing changes, the viewers will get bored. Therefore, he decides to take a bit of a risk for them. Sekai decides to start his magma cooking project. He plans to buy food, water, seasonings, and a large pot. But when he sees the price of the pot, 210,000 yen, he is shocked, thinking it's absurd that something so simple costs more than a potion capable of regenerating lost limbs. Sekai analyzes the prices of water, food, and seasonings and realizes that, although expensive, the items are acceptable if he thinks of them as tourist attraction prices. Even so, he hesitates a bit. One of the viewers scolds him, saying he's a millionaire and shouldn't be stingy. Embarrassed, he decides to buy the items and wonders if they will fall from the sky like the potions. Shortly after the purchase, the items fall from the sky. A frying pan with vegetables, meat, and seasonings lands on the ground. Sekai watches everything in silence, surprised, and gives a forced smile, clearly not knowing how to react to the unusual situation. Sekai falls to the ground in frustration, with the frying pan hitting his head. He complains that he was expecting a cooked meal, not raw ingredients. The pan contains meat, onion, carrot, and curry powder. He realizes that without fire or proper utensils, he won't be able to do anything, stuck with the ingredients. Sekai continues lying on the ground, complaining, while an explanation appears saying that the dish is a summer vegetable curry, good for relieving fatigue. He notices that the pan isn't a cauldron, but a wok, but says it doesn't make much difference. Then, he is surprised to see the rice floating on its own in the water and begins to suspect that this is some kind of dungeon power. Sekai realizes that the spice set comes in small jars and concludes that if he saves, he'll be able to make it last for a while. He comments that you can eat rice even with the worst seasonings and decides to cook without fear of making mistakes. Since he used the pan as a bowl, he says he will buy another one later. Sekai holds the new pot and decides to test it before cooking. He wants to see if it can withstand the magma, as he paid 210,000 yen for it and expects it to be durable. Walking toward the location, he comments that it would be frustrating to start cooking and have the pot fail. Sekai dips the pot into the magma, starting the test with determination. He comments that this challenge is for both the plan and the meal. While the pot starts to boil on the surface, he watches carefully, waiting to see if it will melt or withstand. Sekai celebrates when he sees that the pot withstands the magma. He declares the durability test complete and, excited, raises his arms, ready to cook. Using the wok as a cutting board was strange, but the measuring spoons that came with the spices are being very useful. Sekai finishes preparing the summer vegetable curry and celebrates. It's ready. Since he doesn't have a plate, he decides to eat straight from the pan. Looking satisfied with the food, he says, "Itadakimasu," before starting to eat. Sekai tries the curry and reacts with surprise. It's hot. After tasting more, he says it's delicious. He compares the feeling to eating an onigiri after climbing a mountain. He remembers that he was tired and injured because of the potions, and concludes that he needs to move. While enjoying the curry, Sekai notices that something is shaking. He wonders if he's the only one seeing it, and soon realizes that the ground is actually shaking. Thinking it might be an earthquake, he questions why he doesn't feel the tremor in himself. Seeing a chest nearby, he suspects he might be in a dangerous area, and decides to move immediately. Sekai witnesses an eruption of magma right in front of him. He is startled by the scene, but soon comments that, despite the danger, the view is beautiful. However, he recognizes that it was crazy to stay playing around in that place. He realizes that normally, such an eruption wouldn't be seen in the damp zone of the 500th floor, and regrets wasting time in such an unstable location. Sekai watches the eruption head-on without reaction. Sitting, he stares at the active volcano and accepts the situation, saying it's been a good journey. Meanwhile, the viewer's messages comment jokingly and with concern, saying it's not fireworks and asking if he doesn't want to escape. Still, Sekai hesitates, thinking maybe he can just enjoy the view before the worst happens. Sekai thanks for the meal in a traditional way, with hands together and eyes closed, showing respect. Soon after, a new message appears in the spotlight. He has acquired a new skill, with the unexpected achievement coming from his attempt to cook in the middle of chaos. After eating and recovering, Sekai decides to have a strategic meeting. He realizes that the monsters on this floor are too strong to face, and that even treasure chests are dangerous. So, he thinks of another alternative to get stronger. The answer comes quickly. He should learn skills. Even Aragami agrees, saying that acquiring skills might be the most realistic option. Sekai asks how exactly he can acquire new skills. Aragami responds that it's said to be possible through certain actions, but there are no guarantees, and in many cases, it's pure luck. Sekai understands that the only option is to try anything random, even though he finds this explanation confusing and messy. Sekai comments that the information about acquiring skills was a bit vague. He also recalls the incident with the chest, and says he would like to hear stories from other adventurers. He then realizes that he hasn't seen any comments from Yukikaze in a while and gets worried, but soon cheers up when he sees a new message from her, explaining that, based on previous experiences, the resistance system is easy to acquire. Yukikaze comments that with the heat resistance skill, you can stick your hand in lava without feeling anything. Sekai decides to test it right away, and burns himself badly. Someone in the chat asks, "Are you stupid?" And another says it's so hot he shouldn't even be feeling it, which makes it clear that he doesn't have any resistance yet. Sekai looks at his burned hand and, despite the pain, tries to stay calm. He checks the interface and sees that he gained the pain resistance skill. Even with the pain, he handled it well thanks to this new skill. In the chat, people comment that he looks more like a zombie, and that he has a conviction skill for keeping strong despite it all. Sekai confirms that Yukikaze's information was right. He admits that it's strange not to have heat resistance yet, but recognizes that resistance-type skills are easier to acquire over time. So he's calm about it. Sekai decides he's going to train heat resistance by placing his feet directly in the lava. Even though he's screaming that it's hot, he sticks to his plan and calls it resistance with magma foot baths. In the end, the narrator says, he really is an idiot. As Sekai continues his training in heat resistance, Yukikaze comments in surprise that he hasn't melted his feet yet. Aragami says he wouldn't be able to keep his sanity in that situation and proposes, "If you survive, I want you to join me." Surrounded by support items and with lava boiling nearby, Sekai remains determined, reinforcing that this is important. An hour passes. Sekai, still firm in his insane challenge, finally sees the reward. The heat resistance skill appears on his status screen. Relieved and happy, he celebrates with a victorious shout, "Yay!" Sekai celebrates his new skill. Now he can touch the lava without melting immediately, unlike before, when his arms and legs would turn to charcoal in seconds. Excited, he acts as if he's evolved beyond humanity, while the comments continue to mock him. Sekai believes that his heat resistance will be the way to level up, feeling confident about the strategy. However, the comments from the stream begin to mock him, making it clear that no one really believes in this crazy idea. Sekai decides to prove that his strategy works, even after so many mistakes. He approaches the lava confidently, recognizing that without heat resistance, the extreme heat would have knocked him down by now. Sekai pours the hot contents of the pan directly onto the chest with a confident smile. He proudly declares that his strategy is working, but something unexpected happens, catching his attention. Sekai is shocked to see that the chest didn't suffer any damage from the magma attack. He realized that, since he's in a magma zone, the monster probably already has heat resistance. Still, he tries to repeat the action, admitting that he thought it would work. Sekai reflects on how he'd like to act on his own and make decisions with his own strength, without relying on orders. However, he admits that he can't come up with big ideas with his limited mind, which is why he continues to rely on the advice of the viewers who follow him. Sekai watches the chest with distrust, curious why it didn't react to the pan's touch. He decides to test it once more to see if it's really not a trap, preparing to open it. Sekai tries to open the chest with effort, but nothing happens, making him feel a bit foolish. He admits to himself that, not knowing much, he had to rely on the help of others from the beginning, recognizing that he's still a somewhat foolish adventurer. While pushing the chest with effort, Sekai thinks about his decisions. Even asking for advice, he wants to be the only one to decide what to do, without blaming others if something goes wrong. He commits to following what he believes is right, and at that moment, the chest finally moves. Sekai drops the chest straight into the lava. At first, it seems useless, since the creature is immune to heat, but then he notices something different. The monster is sinking and begins to struggle. The creature is drowning in the lava. Sekai watches the pan sink calmly into the lava. He lets out a sigh of relief and looks at the horizon, serene, as if satisfied with the result. Sekai celebrates excitedly after defeating the chest monster by throwing it into the lava. He levels up and thanks emotionally, saying he'll never forget Mr. Chest. Meanwhile, Aragami and Yukikaze's comments show they're enjoying the unusual situation. Sekai excitedly reveals that his level went from 2 to 50. He shows that he's now at the level recommended for facing the middle and lower floors of the dungeon. Despite the huge progress, the comments remind him that it's still not enough if he has to face a level 1240 wolf. Even knowing that level 50 is still low, Sekai allows himself to dream a little. Yukikaze comments that, at this level, his vision should be so sharp that he'd almost see bullets. Sekai is happy to have grown a bit, and acknowledges Yukikaze as a rare and special viewer. Yukikaze warns that there's something at Sekai's feet. He finds a sticky candy and wonders when it appeared there. Curious, he wonders if it's a reward for defeating the chest monster. Sekai decides to eat the candy without thinking twice, excited after his victory. In the comments, the viewers react surprised and curious, as it's not a skill ball, which is rare. He continues smiling and calm, even though he's warned about a possible stomachache. While still sucking on the candy, Sekai discovers that it was a skill ball, a rare item left by monsters that grants a skill with just one lick. He celebrates for eating it without hesitation, thinking it was the right choice. Shortly after, a random skill is activated. Sekai realizes that just one lick was enough to activate the skill, but he had already eaten it all. Meanwhile, Sienna, ranked 6th in the world, watches the situation from afar and enjoys his behavior. She comments that she went to see the commotion and finds Sekai a very interesting boy, while holding her phone with his live stream on it. Sekai asks if it's true that the skill he gained can be random and dangerous. Sienna casually responds, saying that it usually is a meaningless skill, and starts laughing a lot at the situation. Soon after, another comment appears asking if Sekai even knows a skill called Princess, suggesting he's still quite inexperienced. Sienna Cattrall, currently ranked 6th in the world, is the only known woman with S rank. She's called Kubo Haim, or Princess Beheader, because of her brutal fighting style, cutting off heads with an axe. Upon hearing this, Sekai realizes he has received valuable information from someone extremely powerful. Sekai, still recovering, remembers that he's reached a new level and can't give up now. Yukikaze sends an encouraging message, telling him to live strong. He then reflects that, although the chances of success are low, there is still a possibility. With that, he gets excited and decides to display his new skills acquired from the treasure chest. Sekai discovers that he gained a new skill called Self-Sacrifice. This skill converts the defense increase gained from future levels into attack power, but in exchange, it prohibits the use of heavy equipment. He realizes it's a powerful skill for boosting his attack, but is left speechless when he notices the side effect. Sekai is shocked when he understands the skill better. Even though it's good for attacking, the prohibition on heavy armor makes him wonder if it's really worth it. He tries to accept the situation, but the look of discouragement shows how shaken he is by the trade. Sekai throws himself on the ground in frustration, outraged that he gained a skill that, in practice, weakens him. He complains that his life has already been sacrificed from the start, and now this just makes it worse. Even so, as he rolls on the ground indignantly, the comments remind him that he's still alive, has potions, and that the previous strategy was just a desperate act. Sekai lies down exhausted and decides to sleep, saying he's already passed his limit. Meanwhile, others comment on the time in their own places. For some, it's still noon. He also tries to buy clothes in the system, but is too tired to continue. Another comment appears asking if he's sleeping, and Sekai responds that he just laid down. After a few hours, Sekai wakes up saying, "Good morning," even though it's already noon. It's the third day of survival, and even with the tension of the situation, he feels better after resting. While he cleans up and prepares something, they comment that he really can sleep well. Now more rested, Sekai begins to reflect. He notices he's receiving comments from much more competent people, like Yukikaze, Aragami, and another mysterious figure. With his new visual skill, he can finally read the comments, even if it causes a headache. He also notices that the comments section is packed, filled with high-level connections and discussions between experienced adventurers. Sekai realizes the situation is complicated, but he's not out of ideas. Since he needs local information to come up with a good plan, he decides to do something on his own. With determination, he states that he will discreetly map out the area around him. Sekai positions himself to run, and without hesitation, starts sprinting with a determined posture. But soon he questions why he's running so fast. In the comments, the viewers have fun with his intensity, thinking it's unnecessary to rush so much just to explore. Sekai points to the wall and says that this is the wolves' territory, remembering that one of them stared at him the day before. Even though he can't see any now, he decides to run for precaution, not wanting to be caught off guard. In the comments, people react, saying he's overexerting himself, with reactions ranging from admiration to mockery. Sekai explains that when fleeing from enemies, mapping is essential to avoid dead ends. He learned this from a strong adventurer and is now applying that knowledge by relying on others' information. Even though he depends on them, he also contributes by mapping the path. In the end, he mentions that he's running out of supplies, emphasizing the importance of the viewer's help. Sekai realizes he was trying to draw the map by hand, but concludes that taking a picture from a high point would be easier. He feels a bit frustrated for wasting time with pointless notes and already expects criticism in the comments. Still, he decides to move forward and put in the effort to get results and make up for his mistakes. Sekai finds a high point and is impressed by the view. He takes a picture and gets excited when he realizes he can see part of the terrain, including lava and even some wolves. Sekai realizes that by being able to see the wolves from above, this also means they can see him clearly. Upon realizing this, he panics. He's completely exposed to the monster's eyes. The protagonist watches the wolf's attack approaching and feels everything slow down. He wonders if this is the famous moment of an accident where everything seems slower. With the impact imminent, he wonders if it's finally his time to die. The protagonist stays still in front of the energy mass approaching with force. Even with the explosion happening right ahead, he faces it in silence, observing the phenomenon calmly, as if accepting what would come next. The creature's attack narrowly misses the protagonist, who is surprised. Someone comments that it was luck, but Sienna immediately disagrees, saying it's not just luck. Aragami agrees with her and reminds that Yukikaze had already explained that the wolf's power increases depending on the player's level. Aragami comments that Sakai managed to see the fireball's path and dodge it. Meanwhile, other viewers are surprised by the movement, questioning how he was able to execute such an advanced maneuver. The situation ends up sparking even more interest in them. Sakai is almost hit by the attack but dodges in time. Even so, his arm gets burned. He doesn't feel pain, thanks to the heat resistance and pain-resistant skills he gained earlier. In the end, he falls into a cauldron while trying to recover. One of the wolves appears again, ready to attack. Sakai understands the danger and starts running without hesitation. While retreating, he decides to end the exploration for now and head back to the cave for safety. When Sakai tries to return to the cave, he realizes that the wolf has already anticipated this and is blocking the entrance. With a nervous smile, Sakai acknowledges the enemy's cunning. Sakai realizes that the wolf has blocked the entrance to the cave. He understands that the monster saw him sleeping there earlier and deduced that this was his refuge, so it preemptively waited for his return. Sakai admits that he doesn't know what to do, but shifts the responsibility to others, saying it's their job to figure this out. He comments that everyone underestimates him and calls him naive, and when he asks if they know that, he hears a "for sure" in response. Sakai acknowledges that the final responsibility will always be his, even if he dies, so others can suggest ideas without guilt. Despite his carefree attitude, he demonstrates integrity, which surprises even the viewers. In the end, he raises his arms excitedly, saying that his life is in the hands of the viewers, while receiving comments like, "This guy's problematic." Yukikaze sends a map with the areas Sakai has already covered, made from several cuts. She asks Sakai to try filling in the blank spaces on his own. Surprised by the map's accuracy and usefulness, Sakai reacts by asking, "Are you a god?" Sakai confirms that it was indeed Yukikaze who sent the map, and is impressed to see that the information was recorded on the dungeon phone. Additionally, he notices that his own position is shown in real time, which is very useful. Aragami comments that this is compatible with the phone's automatic mapping system, making everything even more incredible. Sakai thanks the viewers, Aragami and Sienna, for the help, saying he will do his best not to lose to Yukikaze. Meanwhile, the comments highlight Yukikaze's skill, praising the map she sent. Some are surprised to learn that Yukikaze is rank B, as there's almost no information available about her, despite her impressive contributions. Sakai looks at Yukikaze with distrust and wonders. "Yukikaze, who are you?" Next we see Yukikaze walking firmly, facing two huge beasts in a large hall, transmitting an enigmatic and powerful presence. Yukikaze coldly stares at the beasts and calls them nuisances. In a swift movement, she casts the spell Wind Sickle, which violently cuts the enemies with wind blades. Yukikaze finishes the attack and coldly observes the result. She checks the device, which shows that she is on the 60th floor of the Tokyo dungeon. In silence, she says, "It's still not enough," and concludes that she has come so far, showing that her journey is far from over. Yukikaze observes the situation with a serious expression. She reveals that it was because of her that Sakai Kotoba, a promising novice, was sent alone to the dangerous 60th floor, something unprecedented. Regretful, she remembers that she was just joking when she suggested he step into the teleportation circle, but now she wonders why he really followed her suggestion. A man in a suit informs her that Yukikaze is the only person in Japan capable of reaching that level, and understands that she wants to keep this a secret. For that, he says that permission to falsify a livestream account has been granted. He promises to try his best to divert attention from this account. Yukikaze just listens, while the narration highlights she is a top-tier S rank. The character is called Kazama Yukina-sama, and she is standing in silence. The narration highlights how unusual this is, saying, "It's no joke that an S rank is almost standing still." This further reinforces just how powerful and mysterious she is. Yukine observes the situation from afar, aware of the responsibility she carries. She acknowledges that, although entering a dungeon is at the adventurer's own risk, in Sekai's case, he only entered the teleportation circle because she made a comment. She silently admits that it was because of her that he ended up in this situation. Sekai appears excited in a live broadcast, thanking Yukikaze for the map she made. He says this will help them a lot, and proposes to keep exploring to fill in the blank spaces on the map. Meanwhile, Yukikaze, with a determined look, silently reflects that, thanks to him, she will also give her best. Yukikaze watches Sekai from a distance, touched by how positively and determinedly he faces everything. She thinks it's exactly this positivity that saves her, but she also feels that she needs to act on her own. Then, determined, Yukikaze stands up with a firm look and tells herself that this time she will succeed. And she promises, "Wait for me, Sekai." Sitting alone in the empty corridor, Yukikaze looks ahead and thinks sincerely, "I hope I can save him." Now, more than ever, she feels that it's her turn to repay everything Sekai has done for her. While the wolf remains at the entrance to the cave, the protagonist decides to walk around the area to complete the map. During the exploration, he finds a treasure chest. But strangely, the chest is on fire, which leaves him confused and worried. The protagonist finishes filling in the map while the wolf still blocks the entrance to the cave. Now that the exploration goal has been completed, all that's left is to return to the starting point, where the wolf is waiting. The tension rises with the question, what to do now? The boy returns after exploring the area, but he realizes that the wolf is still blocking the entrance to the resting room, lying in the same spot and showing no signs of leaving. He decides to use an item he created the previous day, taking it out of his item box. Before making any move, he prepares by drinking a potion, following the instructions he received. The boy faces the wolf and mentally prepares himself. As soon as the creature launches a predictable fireball, he decides to counter, ready to act with equal intensity. The boy defends against the attack using a makeshift shield made from a paper broom. To his surprise, the barrier holds up against the explosion of fire, leaving him shocked that it worked. Even though his hands are burning, the boy stays focused. He faces the fireball head-on and resists, making the wolf hesitate. Now he runs determined, needing to get as close as possible to execute his next move with a hidden bottle. While the wolf charges another fireball, the boy runs full speed. Just before the shot is fired, he prepares to throw the bottle, betting everything on his strategy. The bottle strikes the wolf's face, catching it off guard. The liquid spreads, surprising the beast, which didn't expect to be hit in this way. Taking advantage of the wolf being dazed by the attack, Sekai runs without looking back. He smiles, realizing that he finally has a real chance to escape, while the wolf recovers, irritated and snorting just behind him. Sekai manages to escape from the wolf and breathes a sigh of relief. He reveals that he used pepper to stun the creature, as it reacted like a dog. To celebrate, he prepares gyoza for a victory dinner, happy with the result. Sekai reveals that he used an empty potion bottle, filled with pepper, as a weapon against the wolf. He admits that he wasn't sure it would work, but he's pleased with the outcome. As he eats peacefully, he's called malicious, but he responds saying that it's important to eat to keep going. Sekai comments that even though potions heal the body, it's impossible to survive without food, clothes, and shelter. Suddenly, he says he wants to take a bath, remembering that before going to the dungeon, he would bathe twice a day. Then he gets worried, thinking that he smells but is reassured when he remembers that he is alone. Sekai starts daydreaming about jumping into the lava just to take a bath, but is quickly scolded by his own conscience. He thinks about boiling water in a pot, but still prefers an actual bath. Even though he's sweating just by being there, he complains that he can't take a bath or sleep, but acknowledges that the situation could be worse. Despite acknowledging that the wolf is dangerous because it uses fireballs, Sekai believes that its attacks are predictable. Thinking about how the fight would look to viewers of the stream, he decides to face the wolf and climb. Meanwhile, the comments question his confidence and remind him of the skill gap between them. Sekai takes 2 mysterious potions from his item box and comments that he should be able to use them somehow. Despite appearing confident, the comments criticize his lack of caution, reminding him that he doesn't even know if these potions actually work. Still, he proceeds, curious, trying to understand the contents of one of them. Sekai tries one of the mysterious potions and immediately regrets it. The taste is horrible, and he squirms, saying that he wishes he were anywhere else. Despite that, he notices that the bad taste seems like something good for the body, even though it's almost poisonous. Meanwhile, the comments mock the situation, as if he were about to die just by testing poison. Sekai drinks another potion and claims it doesn't seem poisonous. As he reflects, he remembers a comment from a viewer that seemingly harmless things can hurt, while things that appear dangerous might not. He realizes that he's basing his actions on random chat opinions. Sekai says that if it's poison, he'll just take another potion. But the system warns that potions do not cure status effects. Still, he concludes that since the first one didn't harm him, the other must be poisonous. He thinks that if it's a strong poison, maybe he can use it against the wolf. The next day, Sekai faces the wolf again. Someone suggests throwing the substance into the beast's mouth, but he replies that that's not the plan. First, he wants to confirm something. Sekai silently makes his plan: to let the wolf bite his arm along with the mysterious potion, hoping it will have an effect on the enemy. Sekai calmly approaches the wolf with his arm extended, believing that since he's always attacked first, his arm would be the ideal target for the wolf to bite. Even though it all seems a bit crazy, he tries to provoke the monster by offering his arm as bait. Sekai keeps his arm extended, a calm smile on his face, staring directly into the wolf's open mouth. He's completely confident that his plan will work, even though he's one step away from being bitten. The wolf bites Sekai's arm, swallowing the mysterious potion along with it. Sekai watches in surprise as the plan unfolds, seeing that the wolf really ate exactly as he expected. Sekai watches the wolf chew calmly on what it just swallowed, his hand along with the mysterious potion. He stays silent, just hoping that the plan works, and the poison takes effect. Slowly, the wolf's gaze starts to change, indicating that something is happening. The wolf starts shaking violently, drooling thickly, and writhing in pain. Sekai watches, surprised and shocked by the immediate effect of the poison. The potion was really poisonous. His plan worked. Sekai observes the result, relieved and still in shock. He admits that he didn't expect the wolf to fall for the trap, thinking that if it were poison, the monster might notice before. But it worked, and now he's holding his injured arm, surprised to still be alive. Sekai's plan succeeded. The wolf is lying on the ground, poisoned, and he watches the scene surprised by how easy it was. Despite the success, he admits that it was so simple, it's almost disappointing. Sekai looks at the wolf's defeated body, while reading the comments from viewers, feeling like they're mocking him. Despite this, he tries to stay focused and thinks about what to do next. Sekai watches the fallen wolf and deduces that it's still alive since it hasn't disappeared. He wonders if the poison would be enough to kill it, but struggles to assess the creature's state just by looking at it. Someone suggests using a skill to see its remaining HP, but Sekai explains that he can only see its name and species, limiting his options. Sekai is startled when he realizes the wolf is still conscious and begins to rise. He panics, realizing that the creature can still move despite having ingested the poison. Sekai screams in fear as he sees the wolf stand up, but instead of attacking, the wolf simply turns and starts stumbling away. Surprised and confused, Sekai runs after it, asking where it's going. As many comments mock Sekai's actions, someone named Aragami defends his choice, saying it was the right decision. The wolf, clearly weakened by the poison, is still standing but stumbling. The poison continues to spread through its body slowly. Aragami claims that if Sekai wants to defeat it, this is his only chance. As Sekai moves forward excitedly, the superiors analyze his decision. One of the women says that, by instinct, he ended up making the best choice. Yukikaze also recognizes that, given everything that happened, it was a sharp move. Despite these serious compliments, it's clear that Sekai is probably not thinking about any of this, just acting on impulse. Sekai instinctively runs while the poisoned wolf chases him. He acknowledges that the resting area would be the safest spot, but decides to run without thinking, feeling that he's changing his fate in that moment. Even though he's bothered by always being caught up in situations like this, he doesn't regret the choice. Sekai looks at the map and makes a firm decision. He says he's going to act, without revealing exactly what the plan is. While others question his intentions, he simply responds to watch, confident in what he's about to do. Sekai faces the wolf head-on, firm and smiling. Confidently, he calls the monster closer and says, with a sharp and provocative look, that he would defeat it just by looking. The wolf jumps fiercely toward Sekai, but he remains calm and even smiles. With irony, he praises the monster, telling it it's a good wolf for jumping at him. Sekai provokes the wolf and slides backward on the floor. The wolf falls exactly where he was, surprised by the maneuver. Sekai smiles, showing that everything went according to plan. Sekai shouts, calling the wolf an idiot as he watches it dive straight into the magma. He comments that monsters who lose their intelligence and judgment act like beasts. Confident, he points and finishes saying that this was exactly what he wanted, to make the wolf fall straight into the lava. When Sekai realizes it, he's already being pulled into the magma with the wolf. Surprised and frightened, he screams when he notices the monster's tail grabbed him. Still, he tries to stay calm, but it's clear that both of them are about to fall together. Sekai is thrown by the wolf directly into the magma. As he falls in panic, someone tells him not to get too excited. Sienna comments that he fell in just 2 frames, and Aragami sarcastically says he'll laugh if Sekai is still alive. The protagonist, while falling, reflects on his situation. He takes pride in his ability to never stop thinking, even when in trouble, but acknowledges that this doesn't solve anything. He admits then that by accepting defeat, he is just recognizing his inability to change the course of things. The protagonist continues his fall, reflecting to himself. He recognizes that he could keep thinking endlessly, but it wouldn't help. He also realizes that, as he falls, he can't do it in silence. There's something he can do. In his hand, he holds a cell phone, suggesting there's still a chance to act, even in the midst of a desperate situation. The protagonist, still falling, calls forth something with determination. He seems desperate, but manages to cast a spell or use a skill, and a form begins to appear in front of him. He grabs onto it while trying to maintain control, showing an expression of effort and focus. The scene conveys his attempt to avoid the impending fall and escape the desperate situation. The protagonist, after his attempt to survive, finally falls. But instead of being completely defeated, he finds himself in a slightly more controlled situation. He feels relieved to have survived this far, but soon realizes that there's a cost. His extremities are scraped. Meanwhile, another character comments on the fact that his actions are impressive, but also a bit comical. The scene develops with a slight atmosphere of irony and humor, with characters discussing the details of his situation. The protagonist, now with a clearer view of the situation, watches the lava around him and comments that the bottom is shallower than he expected. In response, a creature appears, making a sarcastic remark and asking if he's referring to himself as shallow. The protagonist watches the creature covered in flames and realizes that, because of its appearance, it's not afraid of the lava. He wonders if there would be any damage from the fall, but soon notices that the creature is not coming toward him. With that, he decides that he now has a chance to reach solid ground more calmly and safely, planning to move slowly to avoid more problems. The protagonist looks at the creature with a skeptical gaze, calling it a wolf, while expressing his frustration with its hasty behavior. He then tries to cheer it up, telling it it's brave and that there's still little time to continue. However, he wonders about the strangeness of cheering for a creature in such a complicated situation, but tries to keep a positive spirit. The scene mixes a bit of frustration with an attempt at support. The protagonist, now determined, turns to the heartless spectators, joking about the fact that his life is at risk, but he'll still continue his mission, even without an audience. He feels his heart racing and mentions that he's ready for the scaffolding operation in a walk, mixing the tension of the situation with a laid-back attitude. He then gets excited about being a novice, as if he's embracing this new challenge more lightly and fun. Despite the gravity of the moment, the protagonist moves forward, jumping over the floating pans, trying to keep his balance as he moves across the surface of the lava. He almost slips, but continues. Behind them, the flaming wolf chases them. He drinks a potion along the way to resist the heat and gets excited about the proximity to the exit. However, the wolf continues to chase him, not giving up. With just one more jump to escape, the protagonist prepares for the final stretch. The protagonist makes the final jump towards solid ground, confident that he managed to escape. However, at the last moment, he miscalculates and ends up falling straight into the lava. As he plummets, he humorously narrates the reason for his defeat: death by dive. In the background, the wolf watches the scene indifferently, Just as the protagonist is about to fall into the lava, the wolf behind him jumps forcefully, causing a huge explosion. The impact launches the protagonist forward, straight towards solid ground. Surprised by the twist, he acknowledges the wolf's support, even knowing it wasn't intentional, and humorously thanks for the assistance. The protagonist reaches the ground, all scratched up from the impact, while the comments on screen mock the situation, laughing at how he was thrown. He complains about the audience always laughing at his misfortune, even after everything he's been through. Still, with a false expression of indignation and a sparkle in his eyes, he gets up and moves on, showing that despite the difficulties, he doesn't lose his spirit. The protagonist watches in surprise as the wolf begins to approach on solid ground. Even after everything, the creature continues its path. He tries to understand the wolf's behavior, attributing it to madness or the effects of the poison, and comments ironically about his own state of vision. In the end, realizing that it's not the time to stand still, he decides it's better to leave as soon as possible. The protagonist faces the wolf and decides he's not going to run. Even though he failed to drown the creature in the lava, he feels that something inside him has changed. The experience marked him, and now he's determined to face whatever comes next. With conviction, he grabs his weapon and prepares, determined to move forward with courage. The protagonist decides to prove his determination to fight, staring directly at the wolf. He prepares to attack, considering aiming for the creature's eyes, believing it's a vital area connected to the brain. Even if his words are not exactly reassuring, the protagonist holds his sword firmly while reflecting on his situation. He admits that fleeing was just a way to buy time, but he realizes that if he wants to get back home, he needs to act. Between memories of real life and scattered thoughts, he comes to the conclusion that hiding won't help anymore. With that, he decides to move forward, calling the wolf to follow him. Determined, the protagonist runs towards the wolf with his sword in hand, ready to end the chase. With courage and determination, he faces the creature head-on, declaring the end of the game of tag they had been playing. Now he's ready to truly fight. The protagonist charges full speed at the wolf, ending the chase. With his sword raised and full of determination, he prepares to deliver the final blow. The wolf also charges fiercely, and the clash between the two is inevitable. The battle reaches its climax, with both about to collide. In the decisive moment of the fight, the protagonist pulls out a special card or item, surprising the wolf. He approaches with a confident smile, realizing that the opponent is merely following a certain pattern or logic. Upon understanding this, he accepts the situation calmly, showing that he's now in control of the game. The protagonist faces the wolf head-on and states that they are tied, since neither seems to be injured. With his weapon in hand, he tries to maintain balance in the situation. However, as he advances, the wolf throws him with force, hurling him far away. As he flies through the air, he jokes about the situation, admitting humorously that the wolf is right. There was no tie at all. The protagonist is thrown hard against a wall, hitting it with great force and getting stuck upon impact. The audience comments mockingly, saying he's fused with the wall and became art. While some laugh and others pretend to worry, he tries to react, still somewhat dazed, questioning if this can still be considered comedy, despite the violence. The protagonist, stuck in the wall after the impact, comments that he could have died if he hadn't taken the potions in time. Despite the situation, he recovers quickly and regains his composure with good humor. Soon after, he gets up excitedly and says that, now that he's fine, the next step is obvious, implying that he's ready to continue, with renewed confidence. After recovering, the protagonist admits that he's mentally exhausted from everything he's been through and can't think of the next steps. So he decides to ask the viewers directly for suggestions, hoping they will help him with ideas. Despite this, the comments don't collaborate much, telling him to think for himself. Even so, he keeps his good humor and continues trying to engage with the audience. The protagonist grabs everyone's attention, trying to appear serious, but his caricatured expression makes the viewers doubt the urgency. Some comment that he doesn't even look like he needs help. Still, the analysis team seems to be wrapping up something. And another character appears, saying they're late, marking the arrival of a new ally or support to the situation. The protagonist receives a message from Aragami, who finished the analysis and figured out a way to defeat the wolf. Relieved and excited, he reacts emotionally, as if a savior has appeared. The audience's comments celebrate the arrival of the analysis team, and the protagonist even exaggerates his reactions, promising to lick Aragami's shoes in exchange for help. Excited, he reads the proposal to join the guild, now filled with renewed hope and confidence. Aragami shares detailed information about the wolf, revealing that it's a special creature called Searing Wolf, immune to various conventional attacks because of its magic and fiction-based composition. The analysis concludes that the only vulnerable spot is during direct physical contact. The protagonist, excited by the discovery and determined to act, accepts the invitation to join the guild. The viewers encourage him with humorous comments, even suggesting that he just hit the wolf with the wok, reinforcing the lighthearted atmosphere despite the danger. Confident in the plan revealed by the analysis, the protagonist decides to bet everything on the woks, saying that all he has to do is buy several and throw them at the enemy. With a dramatic gesture, he summons the pans, which begin falling from the sky. Meanwhile, the audience's comments mix confusion and support, reinforcing the idea that, no matter how absurd it seems, the wok has always been there for him in tough moments. The protagonist recalls everything he's been through in the dungeon and how the wok has always been by his side, from facing the heat to satisfying his hunger. For him, the wok isn't just a tool, but a true partner that protected and sustained him. Now, even against a fierce wolf, he believes that, together, they can overcome this challenge. The protagonist faces the wolf head-on once again, ready for the final confrontation. He respectfully calls it Mr. Wolf, acknowledging that despite the creature looking tired, it still carries an impressive strength of spirit. The protagonist holds his wok firmly and faces the wolf with confidence, stating that he knows what it's trying to do. Even with the enemy approaching, he remains calm, ensuring that he's fine and that, at this distance, the wolf wouldn't use a long-range attack like a fireball. With the utensil ready in hand, he tries to maintain control of the situation, asking the wolf to calm down. The protagonist prepares as if he's going to hit a baseball, holding the wok firmly and standing with determination. The audience's comments follow the scene with enthusiasm, making jokes and encouraging him. When the wolf attacks with a powerful burst, he doesn't hesitate and goes for the counterattack. This is the decisive moment, a direct confrontation between improvisation and ferocity. The protagonist deflects the attack with the wok, and to his surprise, he manages to break something on the wolf. Shocked and excited, he shouts with joy as he realizes that he caused real damage, realizing that he finally found a weak spot. With confidence in his gaze, the protagonist declares that he was ready all along. When the wolf attacks again, he retaliates with strength, throwing his wok with all his energy. Shouting, "Take that!" he shows that he's now in control of the fight, facing the enemy head-on, without hesitation. The protagonist's strike lands perfectly, causing the wolf to recoil in pain and momentarily stagger. He celebrates seeing the creature bleed, even if just a little, which is already a sign of progress. The audience's comments highlight that this is the perfect moment to act, encouraging him to seize the opportunity. With a surprised and excited expression, the protagonist realizes that he's really causing damage, and victory may be within reach. The protagonist charges with everything for the final attack, throwing another wok with force and determination. The wolf, enraged and injured, screams in desperation, while the comments confirm that the attacks are having an effect. Feeling that victory is close, the protagonist shouts that this is the last one, gathering all his energy to end the battle once and for all. The protagonist, certain of his victory, shouts with conviction that it's over. But in the next instant, the wolf stares with eyes glowing intensely, revealing that it still has strength. The atmosphere changes immediately, indicating that the battle isn't over. The true ending may still be ahead. The protagonist watches confused as what's happening around him changes, holding the wok while the environment starts to transform. He doesn't understand what's about to happen. Amid the chaos, his thoughts fade, and all he can think is that this is definitely not good. His mind goes blank, marking the beginning of something unknown and possibly much more dangerous. The protagonist wakes up on the ground, wounded and exhausted, but alive. Meanwhile, his stream is bombarded with donations and excited comments, as if it were a big spectacle. Still dazed, he realizes what he just did. Faced and cornered the wolf using nothing but a wok. Despite the pain, he acknowledges that he managed something incredible. The protagonist is completely destroyed after the battle. Lying on the ground, he feels intense pain, can barely breathe, and his limbs seem useless. Even confused and weak, he tries to remember what he was doing. With his body failing and his mind scrambled, he struggles to stay conscious while facing the weight of the battle he just fought. Even wounded and with his body trembling, the protagonist forces his arms to move. He knows that if he doesn't drink a potion soon, he will die. With great effort, he stretches his hand toward the bottle, while voices encourage him and pressure him to get up. Slowly, he begins to regain consciousness, and finally manages to reach the item that can save him. The protagonist wakes up saying that he lost consciousness for a while and tries to understand what happened. But the comments don't help much. They only say that he was thrown far and fell hard. Not fully understanding, he asks about the situation, but ends up confused and even a little embarrassed by the super chat alerts that seem too affectionate. The protagonist is thrown against a rock, but recovers quickly and thanks for having protected his head. While the wolf seems to be using a technique that generates shockwaves, the boy realizes he lost track of his location. Seeing this as an opportunity, he decides to find it first and attack it by surprise, finding it amusing that he's so weak that the enemy isn't even paying attention to him anymore. The boy, already used to the beatings he's received, motivates himself and jokes that he even prefers dogs, even though in this case, it's a monster wolf. He remembers the moment when he threw the wok at the enemy and feels a bit sorry. Still, he promises that he'll surprise it next time, reaffirming his confidence. Trust the wok. The boy finally finds the wolf again. He notices that the flames surrounding the monster have disappeared, which indicates that the creature is weakened. The boy attacks the wolf with an improvised bottle full of explosive spices, pepper, mustard, and capsicum powder. The wolf hadn't noticed him, so he takes the opportunity to launch the attack with precision. The impact hits the target, but the effect seems limited, causing only momentary confusion. The wolf releases a fire burst straight at the boy, who reacts with surprise and complains about the creature's behavior. Even after the attack, he tries to stay calm and asks the wolf not to do that again, but notices that any words of his seem to provoke another fireball. The boy runs desperately and shouts, "No!" as the ground in front of him explodes. He reacts confusedly at seeing something unexpected, and then flashes of memories of a girl emerge, scenes of her watching something on TV and gripping her hands tightly, as if cheering or worried. The boy watches in shock a huge crater ahead, created by a direct impact. He wonders if it was the same attack that threw him far before, and notices that the shockwaves seem to come straight at him. The deep hole reveals magma, making him think whether it was a magical attack or even a meteor strike. Meanwhile, the wolf watches the spot carefully. As the boy tries to understand what happened, he watches the messages from other players analyzing the wolf's attack. Some believe it's an invisible ability, others think it's gravity or even a windburst caused by the howl. Even with so many theories, he admits that he's too confused to think straight. All he knows is that the wolf is still there, imposing and ready to continue the fight. The wolf finally stops playing around and starts launching continuous shockwaves, forcing Sakai to run desperately to avoid being hit. The attack is so intense that even the other players comment on how merciless the wolf is being. Sakai can barely react, and the viewers already imagine that he won't make it out of this intact. Sakai runs desperately from the level 1024 wolf, thinking that there's nothing more to be done. He almost accepts his fate, but suddenly shouts that he still has one last trick up his sleeve. With the monster closing in, he decides to use a strategy he thought through carefully, betting everything on this final move. Sakai faces the wolf firmly and declares the start of the final battle between the lower levels. He's standing on the edge of the giant crater created by the previous attacks, while the wolf watches cautiously. The comments in the chat seem confused, thinking whatever he's about to do is dangerous. Sakai slips down the slope of the crater while summoning the wok once again. He seems to have made the decision to jump straight into the lava. The spectators are shocked by this choice and comment that there's no way out from here. Even confused, Sakai hesitates, while the wolf merely watches from above, with Aragami finding it all very interesting. Sakai, sitting at the bottom of the crater, faces the wolf above him. He realizes that if he gets hit by a fireball, he's done for. But then, he changes his line of thinking. That would only be true if he were a wolf. With this thought, he begins to form a new idea. Sakai acknowledges that he was obsessed with defeating the wolf directly. He admits he underestimated the enemy's behavior, which, even with fireballs already being dangerous, always charge forward to attack. Now, Sekai begins to understand the wolf's pattern and seems to have a new plan in mind, using the wolf's own aggressive instincts against it. Sekai faces the wolf head-on, reflecting on the beast's pride that drives it to want to kill him without hesitation. But he notices that this same pride makes the wolf attack hastily. Taking advantage of this, Sekai summons his wok again, betting everything on this decisive moment. Sekai throws water directly at the wolf, creating an intense explosion. He explains that one of the causes of eruptions is when lava comes into contact with underground water. He learned this by watching something, and now he applies this knowledge in the middle of the fight, surprising even the wolf itself. Sekai reveals that his plan was simple. He bought drinking water on impulse and said a prayer. As a humanities student, he admits not knowing the exact amount to use, so he relied on luck. With all the water evaporating at once, with no room to escape, he hopes that the explosion works as expected. A violent explosion takes over the scene, with jets of steam rising under high pressure. Someone reacts in surprise, asking if that's a phreatomagmatic eruption, an explosion caused by the contact between magma and water. It's been 24 hours since Sekai and the wolf were thrown into the air and separated. So far, there's no sign of him. The viewers lament, believing he's dead. A stone begins to move, indicating that something might be about to emerge. Sekai reappears flying at high speed in the sky, with his fist raised and a determined expression. He lands with impact, firmly on the ground, showing that he survived the explosion and is ready to continue. Sekai lands with style, feeling renewed after surviving the explosion. He finds his dungeon smartphone intact and is relieved that he can resume the stream. Even though he panicked when he was thrown far, he now smiles and wonders how the live stream is going. Sekai reappears full of energy in the live stream, striking a victory pose while thanking the ridiculously high comments and super chats he received, including one for 100 million. He is surprised to realize how much Yukikaze donated, and the chat starts asking how he survived all of that. He himself seems unsure and begins thinking about what really happened. Sekai starts explaining what happened before the explosion. He shows the moment of the replay to the viewers and says that, well before everything exploded, he drank a purple potion. That seems to have been the reason he's still alive, despite everything that happened afterward. Sekai confirms that he did indeed drink the purple potion, despite its horrible taste. He says it seemed like something poisonous from a treasure chest, but when he drank it, all his wounds and fatigue disappeared quickly. It was like time rewound, and his body returned to its prime. Sekai reveals that he drank the purple potion, betting that it would work. Aragami comments that it doesn't just heal, but regenerates fatal injuries, being more powerful than resurrection items of temple level. Sienna adds that if he had taken it to the surface, it would have definitely been confiscated. Sekai is shocked to realize that the potion was indeed all of that. Sekai comments that he can't say it out loud, but there are rumors that if someone brings an item strong enough to rewrite the laws of physics, they could end up being extorted by the association itself, or even targeted by assassins. He says that's why he always sells the items directly to the association, to avoid problems. Thanks to the absurd item he obtained, he survived, and he concludes with a smile. It's good to be alive. Sekai explains that, despite surviving the explosion, the fall left him completely wrecked. His whole body was in a delightful state, ironically to him. It took him a while to drink another potion and recover, so he apologizes for the wait. Afterward, now back to himself, he ignores the curious comments and declares that it's his turn now. Sekai confirms that the explosion happened right there. The whole field, along with Wolf-kun, was destroyed. He says goodbye to the wolf, telling it to rest in peace with his wok. Although he had suspected it from gaining experience, now he's sure that Wolf-kun is really dead. Sekai notices something on the ground and runs excitedly towards it. It's his wok. Even after all the destruction from the explosion, the wok survived intact. He celebrates, calling it his faithful partner, and promises that they'll continue to do their best together from now on. Sekai tries to grab the wok, but it's still too hot. He screams in pain from burning his hands and steps back, complaining. Still, he notices there's something else next to the wok, and approaches, curious, but cautiously worried he might end up roasted. Sekai is startled to see a shining armor and a huge magical stone appear on the ground. He wonders if that's the reward for defeating the wolf. When he picks up the stone, he notices it's almost the size of his head, and he's impressed. In the comments, Aragami says that an uncolored magical stone of this size would be worth trillions, shocking everyone. Sekai holds the magical stone and reflects on its value. He hears comments saying that it alone would give energy for 5 years, and that it would be useful for machine development. They also speculate how much it would fetch at an auction. They ask if Aragami is present, and he replies that he's not. Sienna comments that the number 2 world is being too serious, and someone suggests selling the stone discreetly to the Japanese Association, as it would likely wipe out the government's development group. Sekai listens to everything carefully, thinking. Sekai observes the magical stone and decides to keep it for now, saying that he doesn't understand complicated things. He then reveals the second reward, a golden candy. He comments that the color of the skill orb is different from the previous one, but it's still the same type. Remembering his past bad experiences with this kind of item, he wonders what to do, since the last time he ended up with a useless skill. Ignoring the past risks, Sekai eats the golden candy, saying, "Thank you for the meal." Even after remembering his previous mistakes, he repeats the action with a new type of candy, the amber candy, thinking it tastes good and hoping for a good skill. After consuming it, he checks his skill list and discovers 2 new abilities. Focused Revival, which allows sacrificing a limb to deal a powerful attack, and Stamina Consumption Reduction, which increases recovery and attack power when on the verge of death. Sekai celebrates as he grabs the last reward, a golden armor, believing he's finally solved his weak defense problem. However, Yukikaze reminds him that due to the restriction from the sacrifice skill, Sekai can't wear armor. His excitement disappears immediately. Sekai appears in the middle of the association's meeting room and, with a serious face, asks if they should throw the item away. All the members around the table are shocked. One even questions if Sekai isn't too dangerous. The association members continue debating about Sekai. One of them acknowledges that the items he obtained, like the uncolored magical stone, are valuable, but reminds them that they couldn't use force even if he came back alive. Another comments that they didn't expect this to attract so much attention. A third says that Sekai doesn't seem to be looking for trouble, which is a relief. Meanwhile, one of the present members gets agitated, calling the others crazy for not being more concerned, pointing out that Sekai has already shown unpredictable behavior. Another tries to calm things down, suggesting that everything should be resolved with a purchase negotiation, as even the government could release funds for it. The atmosphere in the association meeting becomes more tense. One of the members says that even a negotiation wouldn't be possible, as Sekai is too unpredictable. Another adds that no one there can understand what he's thinking, even after watching him closely. The uncertainty dominates the group until one member, with a cold expression, concludes that the best thing would be to hope that Sekai dies soon. Sekai appears smiling, while the narrator reflects on how insane it would be for someone to come back alive from the depths of Tokyo's dungeon, known as the Den of Demons. Whoever achieves this would have gained such power that they would become a true monster, so strong that no one would even be able to touch them.